Hey, Dr. Scott Bolland here, and welcome to Leading in 10, the live stream where we hope to help you amplify your impact in leading yourself and others in just 10 minutes. In today's episode, I'll be talking to Dr. Tim Baker about the dreaded performance review and what might be some potentially more uplifting and effective alternatives. Tim is the Managing Director of Winners at Work and is an internationally recognized authority on leadership development, executive coaching, change management, and team performance. And he's conducted around 2,500 seminars, workshops, and keynote addresses to over 45,000 people in 11 countries. And in 2013, he was voted one of the 50 most talented global training and development leaders by the World HRD Congress. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
Pleasure, Scott. Yeah, it's great to be here and sort of deja vu.
It just feels like we've recorded the whole thing and forgot to hit go live.
Yeah, something like
that. Not that would ever happen. So, no. Tim, help me set the scene. The dreaded annual performance review. Why is it so dreaded, and is it effective?
Well, I don't know too many people that actually like performance reviews. And let's look at it from the person on the receiving end. Most employees dread it, managers dread it, and then, of course, HR have got to administer this. And so the whole thing is an impost, put it that way. But I think most people dread it. And the truth is, there's no research anywhere that I've come across that demonstrates conclusively that performance reviews actually increase performance. So the question is, well, why are we doing it? And yet most people are wedded to it. So it just seems very strange. And of course, it's time consuming. If you think about it, everyone does an hour once a year or twice a year. There's an hour of preparation. So it's quite a big impost in people's time. And the question is, could they be doing something better? I'm sure they could.
So it seems counterintuitive that you say that these things don't work, because we know from the research on psychological safety that psychological safety is the #1 predictor of high performance teamwork. And that is all around having conversations and providing feedback. So what is wrong with the performance review if that's the intention of it?
Well, the performance review is not a conversation. I don't mind. I don't care how people dress it up. There are forms to fill out. There are ratings to be imposed. And really, it's an appraisal. So if someone's being appraised, you could hardly say it's a nice, relaxing conversation that creates psychological safety. If anything, it's the opposite. So, again, it's not contributing to a psychologically safe workplace. In fact, it's probably going the other way.
So what is the alternative then?
Well, I wrote a book in 2013 called The End of the Performance Review, and I put together a concept called the 5 Conversations Framework, which is essentially 5 developmental conversations that take place once a month. So you've got 5 20-minute conversations. So there's a couple of questions for each that spread over 5 months. And then after you've done that, you go and repeat it a second time. And I think that if any organization looks at doing that, you've got every manager having 10, 20-minute conversations with their people in a relaxed environment. And that, I think, would lead to does lead to psychological safety, because they develop rapport, they develop trust, engagement, they're on the same page. People are actually better off that way.
So it's not about having a single end of year event where I just critique your performance. It's about having ongoing conversations that are around development, I guess.
Correct. And you use a word that it's an event, whereas these are developmental conversations that are quite relaxed. And so therefore people feel very relaxed. That's been my experience in the process.
So if we want to take a look at some of these conversations.
Sure. Yeah, so you can see there, as an audience, you can see that on the left-hand side, you've got 5 months, so one a month, and you can see that in the middle, we've got the actual type of conversation. So we've got a climate review conversation up front, which is really nothing to do with the weather. It's everything to do with job satisfaction and morale and communication. And I start that conversation, or I advise people on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate your current job satisfaction? Now, we know these things ebb and flow. That's true, but it's a catalyst to start a conversation. And the person might say 5. And then you say, okay, why 5? And then they give you some insight into how they're feeling at that time. And then the manager can say, well, do you think it could ever go from a 5 to a 6? Because sometimes 5 is as good as it gets. So, and they say yes, and you say, well, what could I do that might help go from a 5 to a 6? So it's a nice, easy conversation to have. And we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on engagement surveys online. I just think we should be doing that face to face. And then the second one is strengths and talents. And the strengths and talents starts with the proposition that people, let's start with what people are good at. And my question there to start the process is, what's the one thing that you enjoy most about the work you're currently doing? Now, hopefully they'll say something, but whatever that is, there's a fairly good chance that there's a correlation between that and what they're good at, because that's what the research shows, that what we enjoy is usually what we're good at. Based on the 3P principle, we practice what we prefer, and we ultimately, therefore, become proficient in it. So start with the strengths, and then we move into opportunities for growth. But again, I ask people to come to that conversation with an opportunity for growth. It's not for me to sit there and appraise someone. I want them to come to that meeting talking about that. And of course, if they can't bring something to the meeting, then we just terminate the conversation and ask them to come back another time, because it's not an appraisal. And then you'll notice that conversation 4 is in there. And the reason for that is that out of 2 and 3, there are a whole lot of learning opportunities. And that's not necessarily sending people off to courses. It could be mentoring. It could be a range of things. And so, again, HR spends lots of hours doing training needs analyses. Why don't we just talk about it coalface? And then 5 is innovation and continuous improvement. And so whereas 4 is about the individual, 5 is about the organisation. And again, I expect people to come to that with something. And it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It could be, we need a new notice board up here, or maybe we could have a debrief on that project more often. Those are innovations, and they're coming from the actual individual themselves. So in a nutshell, Scott, that's the process. And I can tell you it works really, really well.
So just hearing some of these questions, and I think this does fit in very well with psychological safety, because what they say to cultivate psychological safety is it's really about curiosity rather than giving feedback. And it sounds like some of these conversations are turning the tables and sort of saying, as a leader, what can I do differently? Rather than me giving you, my appraisal of your performance, let's understand the system at a greater level of, okay, you're sitting at a 5. What's that telling us out of 10? And what does it tell us about the system that we can make some modifications, rather than me saying it's all your fault? This is what you should be doing better. It sounds like a broader conversation. And probably it's interesting. Right. This might be challenging for some leaders to actually have that curiosity, because I think, as a leader, some people don't want to be criticised.
Well, it is, and people say, let's go and do a training course on how to have conversations, which is completely absurd. I mean, if our parents are alive today and we said we're doing a 1-day course on conversations, they'd laugh their head off. So we've moved right away from this. It's ridiculous. So this is the training. So that's how it works, And you can see there as a snapshot, this is an organisation that I did some work in, and you can see that what I did is I surveyed them at the beginning. They had 5 conversations, and look at the results. They're almost double in some cases. Significant results. Same questions, same people. Only intervention was 5 developmental conversations based on the 5 conversations framework. So, it works.
Well done. Any final thoughts or reflections?
Not really. I just think that, if you want to continue your performance review, you might be sitting there going, I can't do that. Well, fine. Why not implement this as an enabler to improve a better performance review? So that'd be my suggestion if you can't get rid of the review.
And if we have any questions from the audience, please feel free to type them in and we'll see them. But apart from that, it's been a complete joy talking with you again, Tim. And just in case people want to touch base with either of us, Tim, where can you be found?
Yes, my website's there, or you can come back through LinkedIn or tim@winnersatwork.com.au. So I'm available on email as well. So love to chat if that's what you'd like to do.
Perfect. And I can be found at scottbolland.com. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again sometime, Tim. Cheers.
Thank you. See you.